NBA playoffs this week. It's about time we get this again. It's just about time. Now, this is going to be a very interesting year, especially for teams that were supposed to have high expectations, became disappointing, and teams that were shockingly where people thought they were done, they somehow made it to the playoffs. So let's start with Lakers versus Blazers. Now in this series, many people are saying this could be an upset, and maybe upset of the greatest upset of all time in NBA first round history. Personally, as a Trailblazer fan, I think the Blazers have what it takes to beat them. With Dame when he's been playing, how CJ has, Nurk, and honestly, I think the one player that the Portland Trailblazers need to rely on the most, Hassan Whiteside. Because remember, the last time the Blazers played Anthony Davis, they did not have much success. Now, Rondo was also part of that team, and Rondo, I think, is supposed to be coming back. But I think Hassan Whiteside is the key player for the Portland Trailblazers to beat Hassan Whiteside. If you can get him to average at least 14 to 15 points a game, Hassan, then this team, Blazers could win. But sadly, they have no one else for LeBron. And even though I brought on Whiteside being their key weapon against Anthony Davis, but Whiteside just doesn't seem to care. So I sadly have got to go with the Los Angeles Lakers in 7. I think this is going to be close. I'm going to say Lakers in 7. Now, Rockets versus Thunder. Honestly, out of all these matchups, this is one of one of the funnest ones I can't wait for. So I look at this matchup. It's Westbrook versus OKC. And Chris Paul versus Houston. Now, Westbrook is out for, I think, the first 2 games. So that will be very interesting. And honestly, if the Rockets lose this series, it will prove that OKC, why they couldn't get past the first round after KD left, was because of Westbrook. And you know what? I'm going with the Oklahoma City Thunder on an upset series. They win this series in 6. Denver versus Utah. God, this is another good one. 2 division rivals. The Jazz have been a disappointment this season, I feel like. With the roster they had, they should be like top 4. But the Jazz are just missing that one star. This matchup I really like, and also Mike Conley might miss a few games. He just had to get I think it's the birth of a child. I can't remember if it's a boy or girl, but congratulations, Mike. You know, when you leave the bubble, it takes time for that player to come back. I think it takes like 10 days. So we'll see how long the Jazz can last without Mike. But honestly, I think the series can be really good. I actually do look forward to watching the series. But I'm going with the Denver Nuggets in 7. Clippers versus Mavericks. As much as the Mavericks got so much respect and got a great future over teams like New Orleans, Phoenix, and Memphis, Clippers win in 5. Clippers have too much talent and better players with better experience, where I can't really think of a Maverick besides Seth Curry with good experience. But that's just on my opinion. So, okay, Eastern Conference, Milwaukee versus Magic. Milwaukee has the Greek Freak, too much. I'm going to say Milwaukee wins in 5. Pacers versus Miami. Honestly, I like how this series has gone for between these two teams and during the season, the regular season. And the Pacers have not gotten past the first round, I believe, since the Eastern Conference against the Heat with LeBron. Now, I could be wrong, but this is an interesting matchup overall. TJ Warren versus Jimmy Butler. But I'm going actually the Miami Heat in 4. I think this is somehow going to be a 4-0 Miami win. Philly versus Boston. Now there is no Ben Simmons, and that's enough to say. Boston wins in 4. Boston just has too much talent. Just too much. Raptors versus Nets. Do I have to talk about this one? I do? Raptors in 4. That's it. Too much talent. Next. Okay. So it will be Lakers versus OKC. Second round. And I gotta go with Lakers in 5. As much respect I have for Chris Paul, and honestly, it saddens me that he doesn't get an MVP talk, because the Thunder were one of the teams that people were thinking they're gonna tank and they're gonna mess up everything. But the Thunder became a top 5 team. How do you get to be a top 5 team with the roster you have now, with no Paul George and Russell Westbrook? It just amazes me. It really does. But the thing is, though, they don't have much against LeBron or AD, so I have to go with Lakers in 5. Clippers versus Nuggets. This is another good, tough debate right about here. I do think both these teams have a great future. Denver's just one superstar away. But they have so much talent. Clippers have too much experienced players and also one of the best benches and a better head coach. But the problem is the Clippers, we've seen something like that before. The Clippers have never gone past the second round in their franchise. Even when they had Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, and Doc Rivers as still the head coach, who's been to the finals. You would think they would finally get past that. Even though it's different now. And plus Kawhi and Paul George and Lou Williams and all their guys are great. But still, it's so hard to say. Same time they get past the second round. But you know what? They get past the second round. They're going to the Western Conference Finals for the first time. Clippers win this one in 7. But man, it's going to be a fun matchup. So it'll be Milwaukee versus Miami. Oh man, that's a tough one. Miami's a sleeper. Don't sleep on Miami. But I gotta go with Milwaukee in 6. I just don't think they have enough to contain Giannis and the rest of that team. Now, Philly versus Toronto. Boston versus Toronto. I personally just think, even though the Raptors are defending champions and they still play really well, I have to go with Boston 5. I personally don't believe Toronto has enough talent to beat the Celtics. I don't think they do. Now, if it's Philly, that's a different story, but this is against Boston. I don't think they have enough talent to go against Boston. So I gotta go with Boston in 5. So the Eastern Conference Finals, Milwaukee versus Celtics, and Western Conference Finals, 2 of the LA teams. Now let's start with the Eastern Conference. Greek Freak versus the Celtics, which has kind of been, I think, would be the story of this. Milwaukee has a good amount of talent to compete with the Celtics. But Boston, with this season, Boston did. When Kyrie Irving left, they played better. They got better, defensively and offensively. Remember when they made the Eastern Conference without Kyrie and Gordon Hayward? They almost beat the Cavaliers with LeBron to make the finals. The Celtics have so much great talent. They're coached-wise. I mean, if you could be a great defensive team and a good offensive team without, like, a big star like Kyrie Irving. Now, you can make a debate who's better between Kemba and Kyrie, but so far what it has proven, it's the team chemistry. And really, it comes down to that. But I'm going with Milwaukee Bucks in 7. I personally think it's going to be a great series. Now, Clippers versus Lakers. Oh my god. I personally hate LA or any teams in California. I really do. But this is a tough debate. If you look at roster-wise, Clippers to me have more better players roster-wise. The Lakers have 2 top 5 players. The Clippers have Kawhi Leonard, who is the reigning Finals MVP right now. Paul George has never really done anything against LeBron. So this will be interesting to see him go against LeBron again. I just look at this series right about here. Clippers versus Lakers. To me, it's all about bench. Whose bench is going to step up the most? Now, they did tie the series 2-2. But the last game they played, there was no Lou Williams. And I can't remember their center's name, so my bad. But they have two top 3 candidates of Sixth Man of the Year. And it's impressive that you can manage that with 2 players on the same team, both being part of Sixth Man of the Year. I just look at the Clippers bench versus the Lakers. Clippers overall have a better bench, and I won't say a better roster. But the Lakers have LeBron and Anthony Davis. And the Clippers never been this far, and Paul George has really never beaten LeBron in anything big of a series. But I will go with the Los Angeles Clippers in 7. NBA Finals, Clippers versus Milwaukee. I think that'll be a great NBA Finals, but I would go with Clippers in 6 because Kawhi, I think, would be too much for Milwaukee, especially with this roster. Especially with this roster than last year's rosters with the Raptors. So my NBA champions are the Los Angeles Clippers. And my NBA Finals MVP will be Kawhi Leonard. Who do you guys have to win the finals? Who wins what series? Because I just explained everything. Who I think is who's going to win what in the series and who's going to win the finals. So leave a comment down below. Hit the like button, share this with your friends. Subscribe to me, please, for more videos like this one. And as always, this is Teacher TV Tank Mode. Sign off.